Hello and welcome to our special election show, The Last Word with me, Justice Malala. We are now just 3 days away from Election Day 2021, and the politicians are hard at work trying to convince you to cast your vote for them on Monday, November 1. The big theme on the election campaigns today was who will jump into bed with who exactly. Everyone is talking about coalitions. The ANC's Jessie Duarte says that the ANC has already identified parties with which it is not willing to enter into agreements in line with its ideological standpoint. Action SA leader Herman Mashaba says his party will never go into a coalition with the ANC. He said, and I quote, "You cannot fix the problem by partnering with the cause of the problem. Voters want an alternative to the ANC, and Action SA is that party," close quote. John Steenhuisen of the DA has previously said the party will work with any other party except the EFF. Now he says the DA does not want to jump into bed with the ANC. It wants to kick the ANC out of the bed. All these positions will, of course, be put to the test next week after the results have been counted. But forget the political parties. Most political analysts are keeping a keen eye on independent candidates in these elections. The number of independent candidates for the 2021 local government elections stands at 1,546, almost double the 855 candidates of 2016. What does this say about big party politics, and what impact will they have on governing our municipalities in future? My guest tonight is the leader of the One SA movement, or is that the chief activist of the One SA movement, Municipal? Municipal, welcome to the show. It's lovely to see you again.
Good evening, and it's great to see you. It's great to have you back in our great republic. It's good to be here.
Why has there been this explosion of independents and small parties in our political environment?
I think it's citizens in general in the country are feeling fairly disempowered. I think for many people, they've heard all the promises. It's been, in some ways, the 27-year fatigue, especially at local government, where people are feeling like you've come here every 5 years, told us one story. Secondly, I think there's a deep sense of misrepresentation on the part of the political parties. People don't feel like you're talking for me. Instead, we feel you're racially polarizing people. And so I think citizens are desperate to get power back. And more than anything, I think citizens are also realizing that if they exercise their power, give an independent a chance, someone who they know, who's been in their community, a mother, a civic society worker, a teacher, there's a degree of confidence that says to them, that person can represent me. I don't have to follow ideology at local government. I just have to make sure that that person does the job. And you'll never forget that independent candidates have been standing in local government. And now I think people are seeing an opportunity for them to be able to go, let's exercise what is rightfully ours. And
yet one of the things that the big parties are saying is, don't waste your vote, Justice. The independent gets to win a little seat and goes and sits at the back. John Steenhuisen has made this example that, look at Parliament, all the small parties ended up not getting a word in edgewise. What would you say to that?
It's complete hogwash. I think that it's a political messaging that says either we deserve to be in government till Jesus comes back, or we deserve to be in opposition till Jesus comes back. It's madness. It's madness to deny that people have the right to political representation at whatever size that is. And secondly, I think we forget that a ward is a war.
But isn't it an exercise of power that is key here? And that the point he's making is that exercising the power to be able to fix, you said you were in Mfuleni today, to fix Mfuleni, you may need to mobilize with others to get that done.
And that's why we've gone to every community and set up, if you like, Section 15A organizations. What that means in electoral law is that you can get an association of independent candidates who can work together as a collective to be able not only to benefit for direct votes, but to also benefit from the proportional representation part of it, which means that they've got better exercise of power. I think we must look at democracy. We often look at democracy from the lens of political parties to the citizens. We often fail at the job of asking the citizens to look at democracy for themselves. And if we look at it that way around, then let's say, who sits in a ward committee that sits in your ward, in your street, in your neighborhood? It's the people that must come from there. There's only one ward councillor in that community. And when you are drafting an IDP, which is the plan for the municipality, it literally comes from that community and that ward. So there can be no greater power than that, in that citizens can exercise that. The big votes that need coalition, so to say, pertain to the election of the mayor and the passing of the budget, as the experience in local government has taught me. So more than anything, I think we can agree on who can be the mayor, and literally we don't have to coalesce. We can get back to communities and say to them, what do you want? So that when you eventually get to vote on the budget, it's an expression of the will of the people in your street, in your town, in your community.
I was interested that you said you went to Mfuleni. It's a place that I've driven through, have visited. I had a relative who was at school in that municipality. And if I were to say anything about it, is that it's collapsed. I think of a municipality like Koster in the northwest. I think it's Khetleng municipality in general. Lichtenburg, where Clover left because it wasn't working. What are you finding in places like that with people speaking to? Are people saying, I believe the DA or the FF Plus or the ANC will do this for me, or are they turning towards independence in places like that as well?
It's precisely why I went to a municipality like Mfuleni, because people not only were saying, Mfuleni has been in collapse with both the DA, the ANC and the EFF there. Frankly, what is happening in Mfuleni is nothing short of a complete, I would use a strong language such as a hatred of the citizens that live there. Because frankly, when you ask people to drink water that is contaminated, as the Human Rights Commission puts that, you really cannot claim to love those people. So it's been going on for a while, and therefore citizens have come back to me and said, we want to build this alternative movement. And so today we're working with the New Horizon movement there, and we form a coalition of all of these movements across the country to truly build this alternative where citizens are at the center. And what the people of Mfuleni, and split up into the communities there, whether it's Sebokeng, Everton, etc., are saying, Rona, in our street, we want this person. You know, I found something out today that was quite abysmal. A community was asked to each household to pay 850 rands to pay for a transformer. So when they talk load shedding there's no such thing as load shedding. It's when there will be electricity maybe. And that tells you the frustration citizens have. So why would they pump that money into a municipality that's failing instead of working with an independent candidate who comes from their community, who's seen it all, and can say, I'm going to represent this community in this fight?
Tell me about that candidate, that independent candidate then. What values, what values are you demanding yourself as the One SA movement from that candidate?
So let me tell you, let me give you a few. I'll start with one candidate in the Eastern Cape, Mr. Ken Clark, who is the CEO of Twiza there. It's a 1 billion rand business. It employs over 1,000 people. So what did we ask of him? We asked him to share the value of Ubuntu at its first core place. Why? Because we want him to realize that the value of another human being is great. Because then that way we can really enter into a conversation about what does racial harmony look like, that there's no discrimination. We ask him further to bring ethical leadership. We ask him further to say, always, the community must be at the center and the community must hold him accountable. And ultimately, he must advance the issues that focus on the future of that community, the economy of that community. So with that basket of values, if you like, the very things that unite citizens across, we've been able to unearth great candidates. I can take you to Duarte. I can take you to Muruti Jones out in Mfuleni. I can take you to Ekurhuleni, where they are effectively candidates who come from communities, who then share those common values of service, of ethical leadership, of the sense of Ubuntu, the value of others. And they've bound together across for one South Africa. If we go to Limpopo...
I'm going to stop you there and ask you one thing. What should those people be thinking about when they have to collaborate with the political parties that we've been talking about, the traditional big parties? when essentially they're being asked to be part of a coalition in Mfuleni, in the city of Joburg?
As I've said, there are two fundamental votes at local government. I think sometimes we can also overhype the coalition bit. Unless you are going into executive positions, that's a different conversation. But let's keep it as basic as possible. The first is that in the election of the mayor and the speaker, are these people ethical? Are they not corrupt? Are these people who have demonstrated service for the communities? And are they willing to subject themselves to the accountability of the citizen? That's a key question, because that's what we would ask of our own candidates. That's what we'd ask of any other candidate. Furthermore, the second vote is about the budget, which is the second most vital vote that gets repeated annually. Therefore, that question then becomes, are the needs of the community being put forward? So to come back to Limpopo, if I was in Greater Ledaba, we have to be willing to go, did you consider that there needs tar roads there? Did you consider that they need water? Once those things are in place, then you can go advocate for those. You'd never coalesce with someone who would say, no, let's vote for our own cooked up plan by an independent here and ignore what your community wants, because then you are selling out your community, which is the very essence of what we don't want to achieve. So this whole notion that independents sit at the back and do nothing is actually false, because actually they're at the forefront of that community, however big that community is.
Stay with us as we continue our conversation with Municipal after the break.